Hey everybody, my name is Marco. I am a former professional opera singer and I love talking about video game music from an emotional perspective after a decade on the stage. I've been thinking a lot about games that sort of get lost either to time or due to popularity or a weird release schedule. And today I have a bunch of songs I want to talk about from games current and old and ancient and, lost to time that I think would be really fun to listen to. First up, of course, though, is Golden Sun. Not necessarily a completely lost game. I think that there's a lot of goodwill and love for Golden Sun still, but I don't really know it super well, and honestly, I have no idea what it's about or even what it actually looks like to play. So this is Golden Sun Prologue. That's a surprise. I didn't expect that. Whoa! Nice lower, even though the melody in the upper register and the oboes there, the horns actually had it there. Really prominent, like, horn section, even though this is clearly on, MIDI. There's a lot of trading off melodically too, which is actually surprising to me because it sounds of a time, 2001. That's a nice melody though. Dum 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 dum. Interesting push here to the end of the track. Well, there's a natural loop there. So, what's really interesting to me about a prologue is that a prologue is really, really important. Prologue sets a piece up. A prologue guides us, takes us on the journey that initiates and sets up the emotional stakes of the game. Now, we may not see the payoff of that prologue until much later on in the story, and obviously a prologue, we don't always dive into action right away when we start a video game, and I find this particularly interesting because it takes us on a journey of danger, of stress, but also of power, of a warrior's might. Especially in the beginning, we have this marciales sound quality. It's almost like a national anthem, kind of. Like the thrust of this piece is about getting us from point A to point B, and also from getting us to understand that we are a hero, we are virtuous, we are in the face of adversity, and we will triumph in the face of that adversity. And that's really the interesting thing. Golden Sun is not a game I know anything about, but I find it pretty cool how it's very clearly rooted, I assume, in like a high fantasy environment, right? And everything about it is very stoked in moving us and making us feel like we are unstoppable. And I think that's really, really cool. I definitely maybe could have picked something a little bit more exciting, but I think like prologues are really important. Like I said, they set the thing up and they need to be a punch in the face so that you feel like you want to actually push X or A and get the game started. Next is very different. The original Call of Duty. Now, I don't know how many of you played that, but I remember when Call of Duty first came out, and it was like a big deal because at that point we'd only had Medal of Honor, and I think we'd had Brothers in Arms. And obviously there was a period of time where World War II shooters were constant. And I low-key wish that we could go back to that now that it's been some 20-ish years. I wouldn't mind a resurgence of World War II shooters. But so Call of Duty 1 was actually composed by Michael Giacchino, who obviously ended up going on and becoming a very successful and very well-known movie and film composer. And this particular track called Taking Stalingrad is really interesting because of the dissonance that it uses. And so I'm excited to check this out with you. So it's interesting to start with long bowing from the basses and I would assume cellos. Yeah, like right away there's such an intense clash in that, and I find that so unique. We typically only hear this in like scary games and horror games, but here we have the strings and the violins really pressing into each other, causing dissonance with the two chords coming not fully coming together. And even here, I mean, like, that's an interesting clash. It's much more scary than it is triumphant or heroic. Typical glissando slide thing that we're doing with horror strings, of course. Big swell, and then we pull back. So that's a natural sforzando there. Almost like dreamlike, if you will. Sustain. See, there's instant tension right there when we have just a little bit of dissonance. Now we move, right? That's dissonant too. I mean, like, this constant clashing in here is really interesting. But now we're springing into action, even though it's a very scary action to take, right? Low brass now picking in. More of that violin sort of pressing discomfort. A bit of unison movement now. That muted trumpet up in the upper register, almost triumphant, but not. Just chaos, really. Notice the spinning of bullets, the whizzing of bullets, Now we're all in unison, actually. Is that a Russian song? Wait a second. That's interesting. That almost feels like a folk song or something that's been deformed and dilapidated as we take Stalingrad. Ooh, that getting just nice crescendo with those sustained notes. I mean, there's tons of dissonance in this. There's that theme again. Da, da. Yes, that's got to be a Russian folk song. I picked this piece from a dissonance perspective because we really don't get a ton of dissonance in video game music. This feels very, very orchestral. Well, obviously, because I mean, this is what I would define as a quintessential tone poem, where we don't need visuals in order to feel the stress, the tension, the concern, the doubt, the worry, the what have you. Everything that we're experiencing through the music. Now, obviously the action's going to help, and seeing the visuals will help. And obviously, like, it's a grisly sight, I'm sure, but the music, and there's so much dissonance in that music, the music helps to showcase that storytelling experience. The music shows us the fear. The music, especially if there is that Russian folk song in there, the music helps us see that, like, Stalingrad is being taken. And it's pretty amazing how, you know, for a game that came out so many years ago, the first Call of Duty came out in 2003. That's crazy. I mean, it's such a mature soundscape. Because we choose to use a symphonic orchestra, it doesn't really like lose itself to like sound fonts of the time. I mean, not that 2000 was that long ago, but the point is that like using a full orchestra sort of makes this sound timeless. And I think that that's also an interesting thought process about why classical orchestral music is still relevant today. And because it doesn't really like ever dissipate. It doesn't fade away. It doesn't disappear. Some things do get lost to time. And even though Call of Duty, no one's really playing Call of Duty 1 from 2003 these days, I do think that this music makes the experience that much more timeless, despite it being, a forgotten sort of gem, if you will. Next up is Plok from SNES. Again, another game that I mean, seemingly have never heard of before. It's clearly a forgotten gem. That's madness. Oh my God. How is this possible for the SNES? This is 1993. And it does like a pivot into rhythm. It goes from sustain into rhythm. That's another shift. That's insanity. So cool. Interesting chords over top too. Interesting. I mean, that's incredible because so much of that is driven by rhythm. It's so driven by focused, rhythmic pattern moving us forward. And also this really nice sustained pedal tone over top where we're just essentially playing chords. And so what we're left with is a feeling of like forward momentum, but it's a kind of forward momentum where if we think about it from an emotional perspective, let's say, obviously we have the laughter, and I don't really know what this, I know it's it's a boss theme. So, boss from plok, but like, so clearly it's like fighting something that can destroy us, right? And the thing is, like, the rhythm dictates the intensity of that emotion because the rhythm moves us, and then we have the descending chords that work in tandem with the rhythm, but it's a rhythm piece first rather than a melodic piece. It's honestly shocking what the Folan brothers were capable of doing with this sound chip, and like at the time, I mean, this is like really incredible. That's like deeply layered, tons of texture in that. It's thick. It's really, really thick. It does. There's a video over here on the side that says plok boss theme, but it's an actual Hotline Miami 2 track by Masked. So check that out if you want to. It sounds like a track that you would hear in Katana Zero or in Hotline Miami. This was written in '93. So it's so cool how like this really set the like pace for what not only came in the future, but also like how like guttural these sensations can be while listening to this. Like, this is like weirdly a perfect song to go and play at the gym. Like, there's an intensity in that track that carries us through and allows us to feel maybe not empowered, but allows us to feel this like grungy invigoration, if that makes sense. There's an intensity in that really can't be denied, especially again for the third time because of those descending chords that are all like with diminished and augmented chords, and then on top of that like that sustains us and that moves us through it, and it's really, 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 really cool. So shifting gears, Darksiders 2 is a game that I really, really enjoyed. I played it a while ago. I played it when it first released, and I feel like no one really talks about the Darksiders series. This is Stains of Heresy, and it's by Jesper Kyd, one of the greatest video game composers of all time. Wow, nice. It feels almost like a sea shanty. Real strong rhythmic emphasis here as well. Big beat pattern. Nice doubled movement, so a little bit of emphasis there. Not dissimilar to plok, weirdly. Man, that's dope. Nice accent with the trombone. And then it sort of resets with the chorus as they double the rhythm. So that's cool because what a short, wow, that's like 1 minute and 30 seconds. What's really awesome about that is that you feel the sense of forward momentum, forward drive, kind of like plok. But do you notice how even though rhythmically they're essentially doing similar things, obviously not exactly, but there's a sense of forward momentum in both of these pieces that's driving us forward. However, the difference is the heroicism that comes across in the Darksiders 2 theme here, Stains of Heresy, where we feel a sense of drive, but it's really like a back is against the wall. We don't have another option. We have to keep going. We have to move forward. We have to triumph over adversity. We have to do this. I think it's really cool because we also have the lower brass, whether it's either a trombone or a French horn soundscape, where that motif is motif. I don't know why I did that. The reason why that's so cool is because that leitmotif is actually setting us up emotionally for what we should glom onto. That motif is really subtle, and yet it's like a perfect sort of, it's like the peanut butter and jelly to this very rhythmic bread. You know what I mean? And I also love the doubling of the chorus there, because with the rhythm and with the, I guess the percussion, because that also drives us forward and also raises the stakes ever so slightly, because we're using the soprano voice and the upper register, we're carrying it through. That really is like a, what's going to happen here? But that French horn or trombone was really, really, really exciting for even the 10 seconds it was in there. Melody is so important. Motivic writing is so important. And it doesn't have to be a big drawn out melody. I mean, like a 4 to 8 to 16 bar phrase is enough to earworm it. And then it gets stuck into you as you feel that sense of forward momentum and forward drive. And I mean, that was so short, but yet so very exciting. And I enjoyed that, immensely. Next up, I want to go back to Legend of Dragoon. It's a game I haven't played, but it's like literally been on my to-do list since I was a child. I really need to sit down and just play it, because I have the capacity to play it. It's like an RPG that got overshadowed by like Final Fantasies as they were coming out. And in the PS1 era of RPGs was, incredible. Vagrant Story, Legend of Dragoon, Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, Wild Arms. I think that's an RPG. Like there were so many like classic gems, and The Legend of Dragoon, despite its age or whatever, I personally think it really deserves the remake treatment. Whether or not it ever will, I doubt it, but it would be nice to see. But musically, I don't actually know very much about it. So let's check this out. Shana's theme. Nice. That's so simple. That's where the shift is. There we go. Oh, I love that little lilt. Da 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 ya. Sha da ya da 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 da. See, and it goes to show that repetition can be so evocative and so wonderful. Now, also, again, another really simple MIDI. I mean, with what's the melody? Sing it back to me right now at home. Did you do it? Dum bum ba da 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 dum. That's it. Dum dum, and then at the end with dum dum da 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 da. That's it. Obviously, there's like a little B section there that's really, I think it like sends home the sort of character traits of Shana. But Shana, to me, if we listen to the fact that it's written with this sort of like almost glockenspiel, xylophone, marimba sound, a mallet instrument. There's a lightness in that sound. There's an innocence in that sound. There's a feeling of like wanting to do the right thing, wanting to like keep moving forward. There's a sound in there of youth, of lightness, of gentility, of peacefulness. And I really think that might also be coming from the fact that if we look at the way that melodic pattern, dum bum ba da 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 da, what are we doing? Ba da 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 da. We're just going up. The warmth and the positivity and the hope for the future, that's why we go up. And then it's also really cool because then we re-emphasize that idea. Bum bum ba da 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 ba da ba da, please hope. And man, it's nice. And I really, really, really want to get on Legend of Dragoon here. I probably should just sit down. I can't imagine it's too long, but it just is one of these games that is just always passed me by but I feel like it's like a bucket list game that like needs to be played because of like just the aesthetic. I mean, those wonderfully crunchy polygons. Like, it's just hard to deny the charm of Legend of Dragoon, even though I know that it suffers from its share of issues and is certainly maybe not reaching the same peaks as Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 certainly did at that time period. The Last Guardian is another song that I really want to listen to. This is The Last Guardian Suite, the end titles. It's a game that I never really was interested in per se, but I respect the vision of Team Ico, and I know, I mean, I love my dog, so I mean, like, this is the closest thing to having a digital version of my dog, so I don't know, I that doesn't make any sense. Let's listen to the end titles from The Last Guardian. I mean, beautiful arpeggiations here. I love the dancing in the upper register here. Ooh, a little bit of crunch. This is very melancholy. That dissonance is so interesting. Da-da. And then it switches into this like almost peaceful sound. But it's very melancholy. There's an angst in that sound quality. Is the orchestra gonna come in? Oh. We pick up in tempo. It's like we're flying. Oh. Nice French horn domination there. Oh, and then it pulls back as that English horn ever so slightly presses forward as the main motivic idea there. Glissando on the harp. Wow. Wow. Listen to how that oboe just comes forward and sets itself up. And then it pulls back and it's done. And there it is again. Da 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 da. Slightly out of the chord. Long sustained bowing. Oh, they die down, and oh, what an awesome transition. We're still holding on there. Oh, this is just call and response. We're just taking turns. It's almost a fugue. Not really, actually. A flute instrument. Oh, that's the actual flute. Man, the lower strings really push into it, emphasize that. Dum bum bum bum, dum 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 dum, dum 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 dum, dum 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 dum. Man, that little accent note is so interesting. Da-dum, da-dum, dum, da-dum. That's such an interesting note. Dum 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 da dum dum da dum dum. Beautiful clarinet, just ever so coming in full. Wonderful accent note. And then it like pitters away. The piano fades out. And we end on the chord with this sort of fascinatingly haunting sound effect over top as we just sustain on those bowings. I mean, that's a piece that I almost don't have any words for because it's so captivating and entrancing, and it makes you feel like the spinning wheel of life continues to move, and you're on that ride and you can't get off. Like, that ride moves, and there's pain in that ride, and there's a little bit of joy, and there's fullness and love and life and laughter, and then inside of that, though, there's still that bubble of pain or grief or loss that is ever present. That dissonance, that that stays pretty much with us throughout the entire piece. And even though we do get carried away by the harp and the clarinet and the English horn and those beautiful supportive strings, there's also this constant state of diminishing returns, of a type of melancholy that pervades us and really is within us and causes us to we cannot shake that feeling that something's not quite right. We've lost so much despite the fact that we're safe, right? And I don't really know the themes of The Last Guardian. It seems like it's pretty depressing, just musically, and also the limited things that I've seen, footage I've seen. But clearly there's just this sense of a desire to grow free, of to be unshackled, if you will. And maybe being unshackled, but at what cost, right? And I find that there's an interesting dichotomy in that music that continues to exist throughout it. I mean, it's an 8-minute piece. It's not short. And yet we never get rid of that sense that that things are good, but something's missing. And so I'm hoping that Spyro Year of the Dragon will have a much peppier tune, considering the piece is called Sunny Villa. Let's check this one out. Okay. I love the percussion in here. Another piece where the percussion is really front and center. Love that acoustic guitar in there. The thing about the piece like this is that I think on the one hand, I think it describes Spyro's demeanor. I think Spyro obviously is a playful character, a character full of bounding energy, of playfulness, of wit, and of sarcasm, and you know, a bit of a spitfire. Obviously, well, he's a dragon, so of course. And on the flip side, I think that music does a great job of describing Sunny Villa. There's a country element of there. You see the sun, you see the green grass. The percussion is satisfying in there because that I think is like Spyro. And then you have this really like bright sound mixed with that really warm acoustic guitar that I think symbolizes exactly what it feels like to be in a sunny villa where there's a bunch of stuff going on around you, and you know everywhere you look there's something happening, and there's an effervescence in that. It's not my favorite piece ever, but in terms of like the fact that it has this bounding energy was really enjoyable. The thing that we have to understand is that there is so much video game music that is getting lost by the wayside every single day. It's our responsibility as video game music lovers to try and maintain and keep this music going, because it's an amazing thing that we can literally pop a game from 2001 on here, or 2003 or 1993, and it can be so good, and it can be still decidedly relevant, whether it's because of the emotional intention, because of the soundscape, because of the choice of instruments. We can't allow ourselves to forget about these really important tracks. Whether it's Spyro the Dragon, Legend of Dragoon, or whatever, we can't lose sight of how meaningful and important video game music is, and has been throughout the years since video games started having music in them. If you like that, feel free to check out more. Feel free to like, subscribe. Stay tuned for more, of course. There's obviously hundreds of songs to be featured in a video like this. And as always, thanks a ton, and I'll see you later.